What is your dream right now? For the last year and a half, I've been asking people that question as we've recorded episodes for this podcast. And that question is going to play a big role in this episode. I'll explain why in a minute. This is Task Time Energy, the purpose-filled productivity podcast. I'm your host, Scott Miller. Welcome to the show. Buckle your seatbelt, hang on to your hat. There's going to be a lot going on in this episode. This is going to be the final episode of the podcast. We are here today to bid a fond farewell to Task Time Energy, the purpose-filled productivity podcast. We do have a very special episode to share with you to mark this occasion. Before I tell you about that, though, you might be wondering why we're ending the podcast. We're ending this podcast because a couple of months ago, I started a new podcast called Creating a Cooler World. And that podcast is about climate change and sustainability and conservation, which are three topics that are very closely related to one another. And honestly, probably some of the most important topics for us to be talking about right now. And I'm really excited about this new podcast. And it's part of kind of a bigger transformation that's going on in my life right now that I'm also very excited about. One of the things that we talk about a lot in this podcast, in Task Time Energy, is the fact that there's not enough time to do everything that we want to do. I mean, for most of us living in this modern world, there is not enough time to do everything that we want to do in a day or in a week. So we make choices. We make choices whether we realize we're doing it or not. But hopefully we figure out what's really most important to us and we choose to focus our time and our energy on those things. And that's what I'm doing here. That's why I'm shutting down this podcast. I don't really feel sad about this at all. Like I said, I'm really excited about the new podcast, and I really want to be able to devote the time and the energy to that podcast that it really deserves. And even just in the last couple months, as I've been putting out these last few episodes of this podcast while also trying to get the new podcast off the ground, I've really seen how challenging it is to do both of these things really well, and how valuable it is to make the decision to just focus on one podcast right now, at this time of my life anyway. So I'm definitely excited for this new adventure and for what's to come. But I have noticed that I've been a little bit hesitant to make this final commitment and record this final episode. I did push back the last couple episodes. We haven't been perfectly on schedule recently. Some of that is for practical reasons, but if I'm honest with myself, it's also because I've been planning this final episode, and it does feel like a big step to be sitting here telling you this and saying, this is it, we're done. And I think that's natural, and I briefly had a couple of second thoughts. I think that's natural too, but realistically, I know that I can't do as good of a job as I want to with two podcasts right now. That to really do a good job, I need to focus my attention on one. And also, I think if you find something in your life that feels really meaningful, it feels like it really has a purpose behind it, it's worthwhile to give that thing the attention that it deserves. And that's really what I'm doing with this new podcast. So, what is your dream right now? If you're a regular listener, you know that I have been asking our guests that question at the end of just about every episode. And it's actually been one of my favorite parts of hosting this podcast. I think some people have been a little surprised by it, maybe caught off guard for a moment, but I know that a lot of people have really enjoyed the question and really enjoyed sharing their dreams with us. Sometimes the answers that people have given have been kind of a nice summary, kind of a summary of the highlights of the conversation that we had during the episode. Sometimes people have talked about their work, which makes sense because a lot of the conversations that we've had in these episodes have focused on the work that my guests do and their careers, and the kind of purpose and meaning that their work brings to their life, and also how they found the energy to be successful and the energy to sustain that success. At other times, guests have shared more personal things. I think those personal dreams that people share give us kind of another insight into who they are as a person and what's important to them and what brings meaning to their life. Listening to what people have to say has inspired me to think about what brings purpose and meaning to my life. Hopefully, it's done the same for you. So I've had the idea for a while now to create an episode where I just share that portion from each episode, just that last part of each episode where I ask people, what is your dream right now? I thought it would be cool to just put all of those in a row in one episode and just listen to that and hear all these different people, all these different wonderful people that we've had as guests reflect on that question and answer that question. And so that's exactly what we're going to do in this episode, this grand finale and fond farewell to our Task Time Energy podcast. And I thought it would be a nice way to pay tribute to all of our amazing guests by sharing their wonderful dreams one more time. The first time I asked our guest, what is your dream right now, was in episode 5 with Derek Haynes. And here's what Derek had to say.
My big dream, if you don't dream big, number one, you shouldn't even dream. You should just nap. When it comes to me, I want to be to the next generation what Bill Nye or, again, Beacon's Lab, and even recently Kyle Hill was and is to me, which is just that scientific inspiration, that inspiration to say, I can be a scientist too. When it comes to having Black representatives, there's historic ones, but I don't believe I have ever had a Black science teacher. Like in elementary school, teachers would teach science and everything else. But as far as like high school, a pure science teacher, at college, a pure science professor, if someone's listening and they're like, you had me, please forgive me, I forgot. But if there was not one that I can think of, was like, this is my science teacher. Again, middle school, elementary school, of course, there were some. But as far as like that's just pure science, I can't reference that. So I want that to be there for Black children to say like, hey, scientists, and I'm doing it. I want to be able to successfully take care of my family, be able to say, hey, y'all don't have to go to these jobs anymore. You can just sit at home and money's there, right? To be able to say, let's travel, let's go somewhere, let's eat something. Let's be able to survive, because unfortunately, we need money to survive in this world that we live in. Very ignorant that we had a world full of resources and we still called that and said, let's give people credit scores and make it like that in bills, because everything is free, but we're going to charge people for it. And finally, just to literally have multiple places of peace and joy within my life. And that's more so than just taking care of my family, because I do love that. It's one of my love languages, acts of service. That's more than just, being an example and a role model, but to literally be able to say like, hey, Scott, come over. This is my house. I got all these plants here. I got my little acreage. Hey, y'all, we're going to go and get on a cruise ship and go look at some random island of plants, or any other thing, just again, that brings me peace and joy. I just want to live on a constant cruise ship, if as it were, of peace and joy, of love and happiness forever.
And here's how my friend Matt Kalush answered that question.
Oh, I ask myself this question, I wouldn't say daily, but probably weekly. And it is a very, very, very difficult question to answer. I have lots of dreams, right? And I have lots of things I want to work on and lots of things I want to do, lots of places I want to go see. But you know what? Honestly, I've kind of come to terms with is I'm living the life that I want to live. So that is my dream. So is there things I want to do? Is there things I want to improve on? Is there places I want to go? Absolutely. But I am living the dream that I've created for myself. So I hope that kind of answers it. It's kind of a loose answer, but that's basically what I got for today.
And here is Amy Knott Parrish.
Oh, what is my dream right now? Let's see. Well, a couple things. I really want to keep growing my practice and learning. I'm just delving into, I've been doing somatics, and I'm just delving into language and reading about linguistics and language and how we make words and why we say things the way that we say them. So I think my dream is just to keep learning. I find the human experience entrancing. And I find the ways that people behave so interesting. And so I would continue to build my dream of just helping everyone realize their version of themselves and to live in that version of life. That is my dream. And on a different note, my other dream is to finish getting my hip replaced this summer so that I'll be back to running hopefully in 18 months. That's my other dream.
And here is my lovely wife, Lauren Green.
The first thing that came to mind is not going to make nearly as much sense to your listeners as it will to you, but I dream of a fenced-in backyard for my dogs.
Oh.
And I won't explain all the backstory to that, but that is a dream that persists, is a fenced-in backyard for my dogs.
This is Dr. Susan FedEx.
It's funny because my dream is very different than it has been at any other point in my life. At other points in my life, I've always been very clear, such as I want to move to France. I want to do a biochemistry project. I want to enjoy weekends in Paris. I want to meet cool people, and I want to enjoy myself. And my dreams have been very concrete, and they've always come true. That's one thing I have to say. All of my dreams have come true, which is pretty incredible. And now, rewriting a list of dreams or just shaping what my life should be at the age of 47, it's more abstract. So I can't say it's based on a location or on certain weather or a certain job that I have to be doing. I'm doing my best to get away from the logical scientist that I've been my entire life. Well, at least a paid scientist since I was a chemist at 19, and just go with my feelings. And this is something that it's funny you're asking. Yeah. For the past 2.5 weeks, 1 week here in the States, and then right before I was coming over, just what are my feelings telling me? What emotions are driving me right now? And it really is to be happy, which I know happy is relative. I moved into New York City at 18, and where there was crime and drugs and a lot of danger. So happy is not this abstract thing that everything is perfect. Happy to me at least means balance, huge self-awareness, and then awareness of the surroundings. So definitely just be happy within myself, which then, will attract happy relationships with the people I have in my life. And at the same time that I want that, just have a good work-life balance. Which, being honest with myself, 25 years in a lab, I never had. But that's because when I was 19 and got that first job, I just loved it so much and I was doing well. And my boss just constantly supported me and said, "You're amazing." That how could I not just want to live to do that work? And unfortunately, it just kind of trickled the other 24 years of my career. But now I'm taking a step back. And I really want to do my best to have that good work-life balance where, as you were saying, be productive, even though I'm not doing the 60 hours a week. Like, be productive with the 40-hour week as much as I thought I would have been during a 60 or 70-hour week and doing these 24-hour shifts. Mm-hmm. So that's the dream. Is I've traveled a lot and lived in different places And now the dream is I'll see where I end up location-wise, but happy and having a good work-life balance, and then having safe, healthy connections with people in my life. And animals. I love dogs. So
Here's Lenore Brayford.
Well, my ultimate dream is for the refuge to exist and for me to not need to be a part of it. My short-term dream is to go on a vacation because I live here on site, and that can be challenging when you live where you work. There's pluses and minuses. And, as we've talked about through this conversation, this work can be a lot, emotionally, physically, etc. So I'm really excited about Paul and I going on a trip. We're thinking about going to Yosemite National Park, and also there's a really amazing vegan resort in Mendocino, California called Stanford Inn by the Sea. So we're going to see if we spend all of our money and go out there. That may be something that we really need, is a little break. And then I can get back to it with a rejuvenated energy. So.
Here's Dr. Els Vonderhelm.
What's my dream? I think that goes back to, reading that book when I was 16, where I was reading it and it felt like everybody should know about this. We're doing this all every night and we don't really know why. And we see it as kind of this waste of time, whereas it is so important and it's basically magical what sleep does to us. And my dream is that, everybody on this planet is aware of that and empowered and equipped with all the knowledge to make sure that they can make it work for them. I think that in the end is going to make for such a happier, healthier, more civil and peaceful society.
Sarah Waltz Johnston, DVM.
My dream, I think about this a lot. My dream, I would really like to have a side-by-side. That sounds like a funny dream, but it would really help build out our farm. A side-by-side is like one of those little ATVs. And it sounds so ridiculous, but as we build out this farm, so we started our farm last year for fun. Nobody asked, but we have emus. We have a miniature pig. We have the zebu. We have goats, because goats are like rabbits. Like, you just keep getting more of them. We have a vast number of chickens and one sheep, and then a bunch of dogs and a 3-legged cat. But the farm has doubled in size in the last 6 months. And so we built our own fence. We're like thinking about how it's going to spread from here. My dream is that we'll have this side by side and eventually get to a place with our farm that it's like a petting zoo, and we can host experiences for, either a boys and girls club or troubled youth or anything like that, that it's like a working experience on the farm. And my dream is to be able to give back in that capacity and to build this out into something like that. So it's like a loose dream, but that's like where most of my dreams go these days, because I find that I'm already in my dream job, and if we built our dream house, and it's been really cool because my husband and I talk about our goals together and talk about what our dreams are together. And we've watched a lot of them come into fruition, and it's certainly not been easy. We lived with my parents for 1.5 years, and that was not magical. It was not magical at all. But we've gotten to this place that now we're watching those dreams come true, and we have to reevaluate what our next dreams are going to look like. And in thinking about how we're going to spread, I think about how I'm going to take care of all of those things. And it would be nice to have the side by side eventually. So that's definitely part of the dream in building things out.
This is Chris Ryan.
What is my dream right now? My dream right now is to get the revised version of the Silver Quicken novel done by a certain time in 2023, which I won't I won't commit to on this podcast. I want to, and it's very daunting, but also super energizing. So I go back and forth between measuring it and not measuring it. And it takes place in the dream world. That's both the act of writing this fiction, and the fiction itself is about a dream school, a school in the dream world, which is Silverquicken. So on all those kind of ways, when you say the word dream to me, I'm immediately pulled to the Silverquicken dream world, where kids learn to manipulate their dreaming powers, what we call swevening, inside that fictional universe, which is an old English word for dreaming. And they learn to manipulate their dreams and to solve puzzles that have been baked into that dream world by previous generations of kids. And at the same time, everybody's got nightmares. And so on the edges of this world lurk those nightmares and the challenges that come from them. So dream, that word has a lot of resonance for me these days, Scott.
This is Dr. Nicole Byers.
That's another good question. You know what? My dream right now, this is a big dream. This is part of my big why, and it's pretty broad and non-specific, like dreams sometimes are. But I want to help create a new generation of leaders who feel confident and in control of their time, like they're not having to make that choice between their career and having a life. That is my dream. That is my big goal.
Dr. Beth Banks Cohn.
Well, from a professional perspective, my dream for the next 4 to 5 years is to really spread the word about expanding our thinking about how change happens in organizations. And my dream would be to get calls from CEOs all around the world that want me to come and talk to their teams, and in turn have me talk to the teams of their teams, and really begin to change the way people think about things, because we can't go on the way we've been going on. I think the pandemic taught us that, but I don't think we know where to go. And I think I have an answer. And I think I don't say that it's the answer, but I think I have an answer. And my dream would be that my phone would be ringing a lot, so that people could bring me in and experience a little time with me and change the way that they view the world.
Luke Iorio.
That's a good one. You know, it's funny. I could answer that in a lot of ways, but I would say, building off of where we just were, I don't know if I can say anything other than my dream right now is to be as present for my experience, my life, my family, the work I'm doing as I possibly can be. And I feel like I'm as close to that dream as I have ever been. And I know that when I am aligned to that, then I am more deeply aligned to my soul. And whatever it is that is meant to come through, whatever it is I'm meant to experience in this life, comes to me easier. So it's presence.
Graham Downey.
Oh, what is my dream right now? Ooh. Well, my partner and I bought a house here in Anchorage last summer. It's this really cute log cabin. And I have been dreaming about the house a lot. And I think maybe this is related to time, but I've been thinking about how will this house change over the next 5 or 10 or 50 years that we live in it, and how we're going to grow and adapt with this house. Been thinking a lot about this book, How Buildings Learn by Stuart Brand, which is about how time and buildings and people all interact with each other and grow and change and adapt with each other. So that's probably where a lot of my imagination. I've become a homeowner, become a property owner, and a lot of my dreaming is about this environment that I'm now living in, and how am I going to change and grow with it.
Kate Cooper Jensen.
My dream. dream. Well, there's just so many. That's such a subjective thing. I mean, I think I am living my dream. I'm actually in a really good place in my life. I am. My family is amazing. My job is amazing. I'm traveling the world doing what I love to do. I can't imagine things really being much better. So I don't really have a dream right now. I think I wake up and it's it. Maybe I'm living. Maybe I'm in the Matrix.
Geshe Gillick Choda.
What is my dream? My dream, of course, as a Buddhist monk, my dream is like completely everlasting freedom from my disturbing thought. Everlasting freedom from my disturbing thought. That's my dream. Hard dream to reach. Mm-hmm. That's what my dream.
Elizabeth Farnsworth Grant.
Should have come with an answer. Well, my dream is a continuation of the path that I feel like I'm on, but hopefully to expand it. So I have been blessed and I've developed certain talents, and I've been able to use those to make good impacts in the world. Again, whether it's art, whether it's teaching, whether it's teaching other people how to do marketing. I do a lot of that still. Whether it's in my current role at the Red Cross that I find so incredibly meaningful. I mean, my job is literally to connect with volunteers and figuring out the best way for them to give back. And so that is incredibly great because I'm working with the people who want to get back. And so my dream is that I've lived this life making a big difference for good and making this world just a better place where people get up off their seats and do something for other people, because that's just one of the ways I found a lot of meaning in my life. And so I've certainly found a direction in my life encouraging other people to do that. So that's my dream, is that I can maybe look back at the end of this time in my life, look back at my life and go, I've encouraged people. I've not only served myself, but I've encouraged other people to look within themselves to give to the world. And, it's not only our impact, but encouraging other people to find their unique ways that they can just pay it forward. I think we need a lot more of that on this planet. I know we need a lot more of that on this planet. And so that's what keeps me going. So my dream is that I did a great job doing that. All of us are on a journey. We're all dealing with the hurdles that life sends our way. But it's how we handle those situations, and then we get out of ourselves and then we look into the world and see how we can make an impact. So that's what I try to do. It's a journey every day, right?
Amy Not Parish again.
Oh, wow. Okay. My dream right now is to be able to trail run again. I am almost a year out from a full hip replacement. And I am really, really hoping when I go for my year follow-up that my surgeon says, yes, you can absolutely hit the trails again. So that is my dream right now, to be sweating in the hot North Carolina summer out in the woods somewhere, picking my way over roots and rocks.
John Colkin, MD.
So first of all, I have no real expectations. I'm just here. Ideally, what I would love would be the opportunity to get in front of as many large audiences as possible, because I think we all can benefit from some of these concepts that I'm talking about, which are not original to me whatsoever, but are ones that I think I'm able to communicate in a way that most people can relate to. I'd love to get to the younger generation, college campuses, young professionals. I've spoken over 200 times to a wide range of audiences all around the world, 2,000 at a sitting, interfaith groups, medical groups, general public, college students, you name it. So I think that's the one thing that I would really love to have more opportunities to do, and also to speak with those who have influence at museums who might be interested in our two exhibitions that are related to compassion. One is that you had mentioned is drawing record crowds at the museum where it is right now, bringing in a diverse group that normally doesn't go to museums, and is based on the science of how we can really foster compassion and moving good intentions into effective action. So again, be more than happy to share information about those with any listeners that may be helpful in getting the attention of the right people for these exhibitions, which will be traveling for 5 to 10 years throughout the United States and overseas also.
Dan Gonzalez.
Oh my gosh. What is my dream right now? I would say, and this is obviously related to the work that we do at District C, my dream or purpose, even beyond the work that we're doing as students, I would love for good people to feel like they have meaningful work in their lives. And good people, I think those that are motivated by positive intentions, those that see themselves as part of a broader community. I would hope for those people that they feel like they're waking up every day and feeling inspired and motivated by the work that they're doing, that there's purpose in their work, that there is value in their work, that, and this goes back to something we were talking about offline before we started recording, which is that people feel they've been productive at the end of the day, that they've done work that matters. I mean, work consumes so much of such a high percentage of our time. And I have to believe that there's a positive correlation between people that are happy with their work and feel like they have meaning and purpose in it, and those that feel like they are happy in their lives. I think those two things go hand in hand. And so I've been thinking a lot about that recently, obviously related in some ways to District C, but just related to things generally. Meaningful work for good people. I love that question. I had to think about that.
Dr. Isabel Roth.
My dream. Well, work-wise, I guess my dream is to see group integrative care as standard of care in primary care, to have this approach of patients coming together with their providers and working in a collaborative way, introducing mindfulness practice and a focus on health and well-being as sort of the bedrock of clinical care. That's my dream. And I don't think it's unachievable.
Yamato.
What is my dream? That's a great question. I would say that my dream is to continue everything that I've been so lucky to be able to do. I've been teaching for more than 20 years, have a successful studio, have this app that's growing now. The dream is to continue that
And, I think I said in the beginning, I really enjoy the connection with students. And before the pandemic, I would travel a lot to Europe to teach. So maybe that's my kind of simple dream. And I think I'm starting to make plans for it to become reality, is to continue that connection. I love to see what people are gaining from Boobom, how they're practicing it. I learn from every student because everybody's unique. And to continue that's part of the reason for doing this app, this Boobom journey that we call it, is to share Boobom with more people and connect with those experiences and share that positive energy that I've felt through this practice, for so many years of my life, and see what other people can do with it.
Colin Ryan.
Oh, good question. I noticed you asked that question, but that's always, I was like, I should prepare. That's always a hard question for me. I tend to get stuck in where I'm at right now. And so if I pop my head up and say, what's my dream? My dream would be, I think, to spend more time with people through the work that I do. I think that one of the things that happened since COVID, and it's changed a lot since, because business has gotten better and I do more travel to speak, but a lot of time just on my own, in my work environment, a lot of time in my own head, and so much that I want to share with people. And so I think that a dream that I have is, and I'm terrified to even say this out loud, but is to write a book or create some vehicle to tell my mental health journey, because it's a book I haven't written yet. I've written a book on finance that has helped so many people. But I know there's this whole other side to my experience that will also help people in a different way. And believe it or not, I have some great, great stories of moments where I was struggling with depression, but then something happened that pulled me out of that and showed me that there was hope. And funny stories too. I mean, just understanding that we all have our versions of kind of sitting around in your PJ pants and eating junk food, like we all, I used to think that was like my private shame. And then you verbalize it and you're like, I mean, you're laughing right now. Like we all have that, You've done that. So again, more in common than we are different. And so I think that would be a dream for me, would be to figure out a way to make that available to people more.
Ganesh Venkataramanan.
That's a great question. And I see that very cunningly you didn't give me that question up front. So I'm going to have to think on my feet here. So, we talked about purpose and impact, right? I'd like that purpose and impact to be long-term and it to be a lot of people, right? When I think of impact, I think of it as meaningful impact, not just fluffy impact, So for example, I could make a TikTok video, which is funny and a lot of people can laugh about it, but that lasts 20 seconds. And even if 1 million people watched it, and it may be a great source of revenue, that doesn't mean that much to me, as a lifelong purpose. So I'd like what I'm doing here with science and with faith and those questions which revolve around those. I'd like to have a meaningful impact in people's lives with that. As they have questions, I'd like to be able to be along with them and help them find answers. It's not as much I think I will give them the answers. It's their journey. I think they will find the answers, and my goal is to help them think through different aspects of it and look at the same question through various eyes, in a sense, and say, what makes sense given all this, So I'd like to impact a lot of people in a meaningful way. I'm probably a little better at impacting people one-on-one than in a big group of people, So that's my dream. If I can impact a lot of people to ask those questions, find those answers, and start their own journeys, then I think that is my dream.
Lauren Foster Lee.
My dream right now. Okay, so I have two. I have one that is very related to the now, and then I have just my dream, and so don't laugh at me. So okay, my dream now is I'm learning about New York. I've been here for 8 weeks now. Woo. And so I just want to I didn't realize that this was a thing, but I want an apartment that has a washer and dryer. That is my dream. It's so basic right now, but apparently a washer and dryer is a high commodity here. And I put in what I wanted to pay based off of what I can afford. And some apartments popped up that were nice. And then I put the filter in there that was washer and dryer. And my selection dropped down to 1. So I'm learning that that's a thing. So I just would love that. That is my the now thing. I don't know if that really is a dream versus a desire. But then my dream is that I want to come back to Durham and be an actor that's based in Durham with chickens in my house. I just want chickens. I want chickens. I want to be back in Durham, I don't know, in a few years or so, and I just want my career to have gotten to a place to where I don't have to have multiple jobs to make ends meet, and I am just based in North Carolina. I might be gone for a few months and then I'll come back home to my chickens and just call it a day.
And finally, I'm really happy and really grateful to have this last share from my friend James LaBarrie be the icing on the cake, the final send-off, to have James as the last person to answer this question, because he really answered it so well. James speaks very eloquently and very insightfully about some of the things that give meaning to our lives and some of the dreams that are really worth turning into realities.
Oh man, Scott, that's a big one. I got a lot of dreams. My dream right now is to travel more. My wife and I have identified in the next 10 years, our parents are aging. The freedom that we have to move right now might be restricted because we have to take care of them. We've already started writing down the places we want to go. We're dreaming about that. I'm dreaming about starting an entrepreneurial course for entrepreneurs. I'm really excited about it. Sharing with them lesson 1, core values. What does this have to do with your businesses and market? Everything. I really want to get into that. I'm dreaming of another podcast. I do a skydiving focused podcast presently, but I'm wanting to do an entrepreneurship focused podcast. I'm dreaming about that. I really enjoy it, listening to people's stories and their journeys. I am daydreaming or dreaming about doing some Hobie Cat sailing in Antigua in December. I'm a dreamer. I got a lot of dreams and things that I want to do. It's an exciting time. I just want to say that, and maybe this might resonate, is, life is difficult. We're all extremely busy. But I can say that, look, life isn't perfect. I have stressors, I have worries, but I am happy. I have my health. My family has their health. And Scott, as we think about time management, and I can't really quite explain this, but since I was the age of 13, and it might be because that's when I left home, but I've always had a high awareness of time in terms of how limited it is. Life is fleeting. I'm 45 right now, Scott. I was 25 a few minutes ago. I swear. And so when I think about dreaming, I'm aware that I don't have much time to dream. And I really want to get after those dreams because I feel myself ticking up. Not thinking, though, that I'm ticking up to be 90. I don't know how much time I have left, but I'm not taking that for granted. I think about my parents all the time in terms of I see them usually twice a year. And every time I see them, and like it's like the things that might annoy you, I don't let annoy me anymore, because is this the last time that I get to spend with them? So all that being said, and this even comes back down to time management in order to enjoy the time that you have, coming back down to values in terms of perspective. Like, I don't want to work like crazy and then die. You know, what I do think, sometimes I'm conflicted with this in terms of legacy. Should you be thinking about legacy? That's a bit self-centered. But I do feel like my time on earth is limited, and I don't want to just be consuming. I do wish to make this world better in the realm of which I can make it better, whether it be with my employees or my business or my clients, the time that I have with my family. So it's a bit of a ramble, but yeah.
So what is your dream right now? I'm going to share mine with you. I've got a lot of dreams right now. I've got some really big dreams. It's kind of like Derek Haynes said, if you're going to dream, you should dream big. Otherwise, you're just napping. One of my dreams is that people will continue to enjoy this podcast and enjoy these episodes and enjoy all the wonderful things that our guests have shared with us. So the podcast isn't going anywhere. It's still going to be available, at least for the foreseeable future. And so if you haven't listened to all the episodes, or maybe there's an episode or two that looked interesting to you and you just haven't listened to them yet, or maybe even listening to this episode and listening to all these amazing dreams that people have shared, maybe one or two stood out to you and you're thinking, oh, I'd really like to hear more from that person. Well, download the episode, make some time to listen to it, make some time in your day for that. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it inspiring and maybe get you thinking about your own dreams. I would also love for a bunch of new listeners who have never listened before to discover this podcast and listen to these episodes and be inspired by the thoughts and ideas and the stories that our guests have shared. One of my equally big dreams right now, maybe even a little bit of a bigger dream, is that many, many people discover and enjoy our new podcast, Creating a Cooler World. I'm very much looking forward to having the time and the energy to devote to that podcast, to have some great conversations with great guests, just like we've done on this podcast. And I would love for that podcast to inspire people and motivate people and get people thinking about the kind of world that we could live in if we wanted to. What kind of life is possible for us to create and share with each other? What opportunities do we all have right now at this moment? If this new podcast sounds exciting, you can learn all about it at creatingacoolerworld.com. And we'll include that link in the show notes for this episode. So that's all a big part of what I'm dreaming about right now. So thank you very much for listening and for being a part of this podcast, of our Task Time Energy podcast. And I hope you'll join us over on the other side with Creating a Cooler World. I think in that podcast, we're going to hear a lot from people about what is bringing purpose and meaning into their life. That's already what that show is doing for me. And Lauren, I know you're going to listen. I know you want to hear the dog update. And right now, the dogs, Maple and Bug, are sleeping and probably dreaming. I wonder what dogs dream about. I mean, probably like chasing squirrels and chasing bunnies, but what else do you think dogs dream about? Be interesting to know. That's all we got, folks. Thank you again for listening. Take care.